All right, Rob and Kennedy, email marketing heroes. What's up?
Hey,
Hello.
Have you
thanks for
brought
having
your
us.
capes? Yeah, it's welcome. Welcome. It's great to have you. It's welcome. Don't know where I was going with
It's
that.
welcome. That's
Yeah.
how we say it around here.
You guys do email marketing in a big way, and I'm really excited to talk to you about it because a lot of my audience kind of was like me for over the last few years and forgot that they had an email list or just didn't have one. And so I'm really excited to find out the joys of the email. Like, how often should we be emailing? But let's get started first. Why don't you do? Obviously I've just done this awesome intro, but maybe do your own version and tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be better than finding a fiver down the side of the sofa, hasn't it? Like finding your email list that you forgot was there and
Yeah,
like going, oh,
exactly.
look at that. That's excellent. I'm Rob. He's Kennedy. That's the first
Hello.
bit. Rob with the red hair. Rob with the red hair. That's that bit. I'm a hypnotist. For the last 18 years, I've been traveling, almost 18 years, I've been traveling around the world, lucky enough to perform my hypnosis show, getting people on stage, hypnotizing them, do crazy things. Kennedy's a mind reader. So, of course, we were destined to become friends. We met at a convention for magicians, of all things. That's a real thing. And became friends like nearly 20 years ago. And that's that. So, independently, we're both off performing our own, like what you might deem as psychological entertainment, Kennedy using psychology and body language and all that stuff to look like you can read people's minds, hypnotizing them. And so we were off performing at very different types of places and different events and things. And along the way, we kind of discovered we'd accidentally both started a business, because as an entertainer, you don't just put your advert in the yellow pages and then wait for people to call you and say, hi, can you come and do this thing, please? You have to like learn how to position yourself and brand yourself and price things and be able to charge more than somebody else and still fill up your diary. And we were, I suppose, really lucky that we just plowed ourselves into that in the early days and both became very busy. We were charging more than like our average competitors were charging by quite a lot. And then in the end, that meant that other hypnotists were coming to me and saying, how are you doing what you're doing? And other like magicians and mind readers and comedians and a whole raft of other entertainers were going to Kennedy and saying, how are you so busy and yet so expensive? And so that turned into a business where, alongside performing, where you spend loads of time on your own, just traveling or sitting in hotels or departure lounges or whatever, we also had these online businesses with memberships and coaching and info products and courses, just selling that stuff passively in the background. And along the way, for both the entertainment business and for the online stuff, we both just naturally fell into email marketing and realized that this seemed to be a good way to do things. I mean, this is like 12, 15 years ago. So it felt like it was the right way to go. And then one day we both like casually went on different parts of the world. I was in Greece, Kennedy was at home, and like we were literally communicating on Skype back. Do you remember that? And we literally said, I found this thing. It's called Aweber. You can collect email addresses in it and you can send emails. And we're like, oh, I've got that too. And we're like, we just swapped notes on it. And that became a thing.
I think what's really, really unusual as well is a lot of people think that because we're entertainers, we must be these extroverts. Actually, we're not. We're both introverts. And I think one of the reasons that I fell into email marketing, I know Rob feels the same, is that we wanted to sell our shows. We want to be able to get booked by these corporations or these theaters and all these fabulous people. But we didn't want to talk to anybody. We did like, I'm okay when I'm on stage. I've got like, I'm in control and I can be that guy. But then I get off stage and I'm like, yeah, I'm a little bit, I mean, Dan, I'm socially awkward, right? so I think the reason we got into email more than anything else is because we could sell high price products, low price products, anything from a gig for multiple thousands down to ebooks for 20 quid, without talking to a single human being, which was an absolute treat, really. So I think that's why it all became about email marketing.
I love that. I think you're right, online business is so magical for introverts. I'm one too. And that was the draw card for me too, was like, oh, I could just lay in bed all day and make money. This is the best.
There are other ways
now
to do
you know what you're doing when you
podcast.
Okay, that's true. Yeah, there are other ways, but I feel like selling info products is the best of those
Definitely.
ways for me anyway. So tell me about when back in the days of Aweber, how has that, I mean, that's a long time ago. You said 10 years ago. That's a lifetime for someone who's 10, but also in digital, in the digital space, right? So like, how has it changed? How have things changed from now or from then to now?
What seems to have happened is, I think, like I have this phrase, which is marketers break everything. They ruin everything. We do. And what happened is people realized that if you just email people when you've got something to sell, oh, I've got this lovely new course about how to build your email list. It's called First 5K and I should sell it now. So I'm going to email my list and go, hey, do you want to buy this course? And that's what we do is whatever we sell, we show up to our email list and we tell them about it. And that was okay. And annoyingly, it worked for a bit, which is why more people did it. And they said, oh, well, every time I've got something to sell, I'll email my list and tell them about it. So that otherwise, how will they know? That's great. The world's changed. The world has changed to be content driven. The world, I mean, your world, the content you create for your clients in your world, it's all about building trust, building authority, penetrating through the noise. So we expect to get value from the content we receive. And that includes email. Back in the day, remember, email stands for electronic mail. It was a replacement for the letters from your gran. It was the electronic version of mail. It's not the electronic version of mail anymore. It is not. What email is now is it's another app that is just snuggled between TikTok and Instagram on people's phones where they receive notifications and content. And so we can't any longer just show up and we want to sell to somebody. We have to show up, realize when people are receiving this stuff on their phone, a slight majority of email is now read on people's mobile devices. It is still just a slight majority, strangely, but it is a majority. And so what we have to do now is we have to show up rather than just when people have something to sell, but we have to show up so that at the moment they're ready to buy, we're there. And that's a different way of thinking about it. Email's no longer this self-serving, this thing only serves the business thing. Instead, email's this thing where you have to show up, give value, slowly build a sales message, which includes building rapport, building trust, building knowledge, building understanding, building desire, building urgency, all the things you need to do in a sales process. But you do that through actually giving value. If your emails don't give any value, why the hell does anybody have to open them? If they know, then they receive an email from you in their inbox and they know, well, you're going to just sell me something. Unless they're in that mode when they think, oh, I might want to buy something off you today, they're not going to open the email. Whereas if they know your emails when they receive from you actually have something they might enjoy, they might get value from in one of a plethora of different ways, then they will open your emails. And then that means you can transition into an offer. And so you can actually deliver value and sell at the same time.
I love that. And that's what I talk about. You and I have talked about that before in terms of nurturing your audience, right? And I like what you said about if they know that you're just selling in every email, then they'll only open your email if they feel like buying something, which means they never will. And so you're left with a really low open rate. So let's talk about that for a second. So it's the same with people on social, right? It's like, oh, I'm just asking people to buy something all the time and no one's buying anything. Well, you've got to nurture them. So that nurturing your audience on an email, how does that work? How do you make it more valuable? How do you not sell but still give killer value?
I think what's really interesting is that we need to draw a distinction here between the fact that you can give value in every email and sell in every email, and that's perfectly okay. So the odd contradiction in what we say is we say that you shouldn't just like turn up and sell at people every day, but we do sell every day. And the difference is realizing that what we don't have to do, and this is really good because this is what a lot of people are still trying to do, is we don't have to spend months sending value pieces and sending people blog posts and a podcast episode and a video and then just a content email and then another podcast. And we don't just have to spend months like buttering people up and then send them a sales email. Because even when you do that, the sales email comes even more out of the blue. Like they've just got used to all of this value. What we're not doing there is we're not like building them up and preparing them for the sale. We're training them to accept you as being the person who doesn't sell them stuff. That you're training them to be the person who just gives them cool stuff all the time. And that's a different business. That's not a business I want. So instead, what we do is we literally find ways to make sure that every email we send has some sort of, and we've got like 8 different types of value that you can put in these emails. But basically, the way that we tend to do it is through stories. So every single day, we'll write an email, send it to our list, which will be about a story of something that's happened to us that day, the day before, that week, even something that happened 10 years ago, but the memory of that was triggered today. And that's why we feel compelled to write about it. And that could be something as mundane as the fact that this house I live in didn't have a doorbell on when I moved in, and it didn't for about a year. And then I bought a doorbell, and then nobody's used the doorbell. Quirky little story. And then things like, you slip over in the shower and bash your head, and then this funny thing happens. Like, they're completely random stories that appear to have nothing to do with whatever it is that you teach, in our case, email marketing, but they're interesting, compelling, and they're human stories, like that connect with people on a human level, and people raise a smile. Like, I did one the other day I did 2 emails last week to our email marketing list about the fact I've just bought a new mattress. And the second email, someone replied saying, "Oh, what mattress did you buy? We're looking for a new mattress." Like, we're just engaging in conversations. The fact that we teach email marketing is separate. And in each of those emails, we transition from usually a story into some kind of lesson that we pull out of that, into some kind of sales pitch as to, if you want our help to do the thing we just talked about, then this is the place to come and hang out. And in our case, we refer people mostly to our membership, the league, but equally that could be your current course or whatever.
So that's really interesting. That story, Kennedy's told me about that story framework before. But I'm really interested to hear, like, you do a quick story, then you make kind of like a moral of the story, and then you transition. But how much of a moral of a story do you need to have before it's like too salesy, or it's just a weird story, and then it's kind of like, I don't know. It's probably not even an answerable question, but can you say a bit more about the value that you're providing in that email as opposed to just a story?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, basically, what we do is when we write them, we start off with the story first. That's really important. So when we sit down to write our email every single day, we don't know what the lesson's going to be, and we don't know what the offer's going to be. We basically only have a very small number of offers. They're going to be listen to our podcast, The Email Marketing Show, or go check out our membership, The League, or maybe one of our smaller front end offers, something like that. Join our Facebook group, maybe. That's all it could ever be. Okay. So we start off with the story, and it's usually never related at all to email marketing. And one of the questions we ask is, what is the least boring thing that happened to me today? And it's not asking what the most interesting thing is, but it's asking what's the least boring thing. So today, what's the least boring thing? I picked up some new spectacles, right? So I've got some new glasses. I quite like them. So tomorrow's email that I send out, I'm probably going to think about, right, I wrote something, I'm going to write the story. So what happened when I went to pick up the spectacles? Well, I got halfway to the shop, which is about 10 minutes walk away, and I realized I did not have my mask. So I had to turn around and come back. So now I've wasted 20 minutes. And now another 10 minutes, so it's 30 minutes now to go on a 10-minute walk. So now I'm literally writing this as we talk. So how many times do you waste time going back and forth on something just because you're not prepared? So now that was the lesson. The lesson is, how many times have you gone back and forth? It's usually like a one-liner kind of, okay. The moral is this thing. It can be a bit more detailed if you want to give some steps or something like that. But often it's a one line, and the moral is bam. And then you can transition into the lesson. So whatever that might be. If you ever go back and forth and waste a lot of time on things, one of the things we often go back and forth on is, how do I structure an email campaign so I don't feel like I'm going round in circles? So I'm actually moving people from point A to point B and moving them towards a sale. The good news is, inside of our membership, the league, we give you structured campaigns which move people from point A to point B. And that's how I would write that story. That's probably going to be tomorrow's email. So it's very, very lean. Go on.
The learning point is, so I can do this without feeling like I'm going around in circles. That gives them hope. It gives them inspiration. They can do something. It gives them clarity. It gives them all these different things that lead them slightly closer to the answer. And now if they want the exact how, then that's when it would be sensible for them to jump inside the program.
Love it. So I had another question about it. Might be gone. So I'll just ask you, how much you've got these like kind of like mini call to actions, right? So it's not like 24 hours only, one of those aggressive ones. It's probably never that unless there is a sale or something. But how do those work? How much do you get a lot of business from those? It's these mini call to actions. Do you actually get people taking a lot of action from them?
Yes, I mean, we get sales every day from that email. We do have one extra step, which is just below the email. We always have this thing called a super signature. Not our idea. It's a guy called Dean Jackson. And it's basically also, when you're ready, here's a bunch of ways we can help you. And then those emails, those super signatures then give them 4 different ways they can work with us that go from low commitment to high commitment. So the first one is listen to our podcast. Here's the link. The second one is join our free Facebook group. Here's the link. The third one is buy the game plan, which is our low ticket front end. And then the last one is join the league, which is obviously monthly membership and therefore has a bit more commitment to it. So that's in the bottom of every email as well. So sometimes even when the main offer in our email is about the league, we'll actually see some sales from the game plan pop through just because it happens to be in the super signature and people have kept scrolling through that. But one of the things we really see is that these emails, these daily emails, whilst they do generate sales on a daily basis, it's also the goal of it to keep subscribers warm between the bigger promotions that we're doing. So like if we're approaching, Christmas and we know we're going to do some sort of holiday related promotion, we want to make sure we haven't just popped up out of the blue to do our holiday promotion, but we've been in their inbox every single day delivering value, and therefore they're more likely. So when we do something that's more urgent or more campaign driven, which is like once a month we'll do like a proper structured campaign. We've been keeping them warm in between by using those daily emails.
And what's really nice about doing that, about mentioning your core offer on a daily basis, is if they're, for example, hearing that your membership is, I don't know, whatever it is, let's say it's $99 a month, just making up a number. If you later do a sale as part of your promotion, there is validity and credibility around the fact that you actually have a discount, because you've been telling them for like 10 days on these daily emails, hey, my product's $99, hey, my product's $99. And then when you come into a campaign, which is a discount, if that's what the thing is, then they go, oh yeah, well, you're saying I can have it for now $59. I know in my heart and in my soul, it is discounted. Because remember, one of the things we are fighting against at all times online, all of us, is the skepticism that they don't believe you. They do not believe you. Whatever you're saying, they think it's BS. So what we have to do all the time is we have to prove it. So one of the things we talk about a lot is we have a thing called a getting to know you sequence, right? Which is when someone first joins your email list, what you don't want to do is have somebody jump straight into what we call these snowball emails, these ones which you're just throwing out all the time on a daily basis or a weekly basis or whatever your cadence happens to be. Because if you do that, if I join your list right now and you're in the middle of some kind of promotion, I'm not gonna be like, what are you talking about on day number 4? What's happening? I'm gonna feel like that guy who walks into a party and I'm a bit late because the taxi driver was late, because they're always blooming late, and everyone's talking about something. I go to a group of friends, I'm like, who are you talking about? When? What happened? I'm gonna feel like that outsider at a party. You don't want that, because that's not engaging. I'm going to probably leave and go to the bar just until a new conversation strikes up. I'm not going to stick around. You don't want that with your emails. You want people to stick around and stay engaged. So what we do instead is when someone joins your email list, you're going to have something called a getting to know you sequence. Ours is a 4-day sequence, 4 emails over 4 days. And that orientates people to how often you're going to email, who you are, all these sort of things. That's really important so that people don't feel left out. So now by the time they get into your regular broadcasty type snowball emails, they're going to feel like, oh, I know what's going on. And what we do in those emails is we, again, prove everything. So going back to the fact that they don't believe anything, one of our emails is about the fact that Rob and I speak at a lot of live events, virtual events, online events, real life events when that's appropriate. And we talk about, for a credibility piece in there, we talk about, oh, we were the closing keynote speaker at this big event. But then we thought, no one's going to believe us because we're trying to create credibility. You've got to make sure that your credibility is not discredited in their minds. So we thought, how can we do that? Well, what did we do? We put a big photo in there of us on stage at the event. And you can see people, like the backs of people's heads in the foreground. They go, okay. Remember, we're training our subscribers at all times to open our emails because there's actual value in them. That when we say something, it's true. When you click on a link in my email, it works, and you're gonna get pleasure, joy, value out of the thing that I send you to. So ask yourself the question: what am I training my followers on social, my subscribers to my email address? What am I training them to believe about me, about themselves, and about the thing that I teach?
I am writing. That's awesome.
I went off on one there. Sorry, I saw the light and I'm going for it.
No, that's awesome. So valuable. So let's go over this, a little bit more in detail for people who may have just remembered that they have an email list, or they haven't started one, but they have 12 emails somewhere. So if someone's just at that point, what's the best thing for them to do to start all of this process? They may not have an autoresponder, and we can go over that again soon. They may not be doing or up to doing daily emails. What's the best way for them to get started?
I think let's dive this into two. So I'll take the people who've like got a list, but it's sort of abandoned. Kennedy, if you want to take the people who are just starting out. If you've got a list and you haven't emailed them for a while, we have this philosophy of a thing called the terrible friend campaign. And basically you're going to send them an email that says, hey, I've been a terrible friend. Because let's face it, right? If somebody lands on your website at some point and they see you've got some lead magnet or some valuable free thing, and they put their name and email address in, they're doing that because they've got a problem. And right now they think you might be the person with the solution. And then what's happened is you've sent them the free thing they've asked for, hopefully, right? You've sent them that. And then you've basically just ghosted them, right? Like you've been the person where they've gone on the first date, they've had a great time, you made jokes, they laughed, and then they've never called you again. Not that I know what that feels like. I'm just hypothesizing. But
none of us do.
You would do that sort of thing. And then you've just disappeared, because at the end of the day, they're only on your list because they want the solution to a problem. They want answers to questions, etc. And you've got them, they believe. And so that you've then disappeared. So what you want to do is you want to reach out and say, hey, listen, I'm really sorry. I've been a terrible friend. Some time ago, you like joined my list and then I sort of ignored you and a bit awkward, but that's okay. I'm back on the wagon now. I'm going to help you out with this. We're going to get this sorted. So here's what you can expect going forward. And then basically you continue on with the same elements Kennedy talked about from the getting to know you sequence. You say, I'm going to email you on whatever frequency you want. So one of the ways people say to us, how do you email people every day? Well, we email people every day because in the very first email they get, we tell them, we're going to email you every day. And if that's not cool, just scroll down and unsubscribe. And if it's cool for now and it's not cool later, then again, feel free to unsubscribe. Almost nobody unsubscribes from our list because of too many emails. Like on the little voting poll thing, almost nobody does that because we set people up for the expectation. So now what we can do is you can say, in fact, in a couple of days' time, we're going to get this started. I'm going to send you a really cool free video where I'm going to teach you this awesome thing. And then a couple of days later, you send them the short video, 2 minutes, filmed on your mobile phone, whacked on a page or on Facebook or Instagram or wherever. Teach them a cool thing. And that could even be the first bit of content in what ultimately becomes some kind of sales process. And the key really is just to reintroduce yourself, give people permission to opt out. You might get a raft of people opting out of that first email because they've not had the engagement from you to maintain a relationship. That's cool. That's just cleaning your list of people who are probably not going to buy anyway. And now you're kind of into it. So if you've got a list of, and listen, we every month on our live coaching calls in our membership, we get people who say, new members who've joined, and they come on their very first call and they haven't heard any of the other calls yet. And they say, listen, I've got this tiny list of 800 subscribers. And we're like, that's not a tiny list. One of our members has a list of 20 people and is making really decent money out of it. So whatever number of subscribers you've currently got, never say, oh, but I've only got 3 subscribers.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So really, remember, when you send an email, the person receiving it, they don't know about anybody else, right? It's not like on Instagram where if you make a post and only 3 people like it, everyone can see that. Or if you've only got 3 followers, everyone can see that. When you send an email, I'm the only person getting that email from you in my head. I know everyone else is, but in my head, I can only see me getting it. So if you've got a list of 1 subscriber, they don't know they're the only one. So I think it's really important that sounds like a song, doesn't it? I'm not the only one. Anyway, so what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're focused on just re-engaging those people, knowing that it's okay, and don't wait till you've got a list of 1 million people. So that's what you want to do if you've already got a list and they've sort of been abandoned.
Right. I love that. And secondly, there should be some kind of parody marketing. We should be writing songs about marketing. You're the only one.
Yeah, I'm not the only one. Sounds like a Western. I feel like I'm on the porch in a rocking chair. Back in the day, I've seen those films. So if you're at that place of going, right, I should probably do this email marketing thing, or maybe you're thinking, right, okay, maybe email marketing is not for me. That's cool, right? What we've got to remember is, right, if your audience right now is on Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook or TikTok, wherever the heck it is, that's lovely. And the way we think about it is, if you go to a concert, but you're going to one of those festivals, right? You go to a festival and there's loads of different bands on, but you're there to see U2 because you love U2. You think they're wonderful. You go along, you two are going to be on later, but this band you've vaguely heard of called The Killers, they come on and you're like, flippin' heck, that's brilliant. Right. That festival, loads of different bands, people in the audience, that is social media. That's your social media audience. Loads of people there, not all of them are there to see you. Right? That's social media. Whereas when I see The Killers and they rock it and I think they're amazing, and I now buy tickets to their local concert in the local arena, and now I'm in their audience. That's what your email marketing is. You build your audience on social media, but you build your business on your email list. And the reason you do that is because if Zuckerberg wakes up on the wrong side of the bed tomorrow and twiddles the knob of the algorithm on any of the platforms that he's in charge of, or any of the platforms do that, you can't do anything about it. You can't do nothing about it. You can't go, I'll just get off Facebook. I'll just download the people's data and upload it to nowhere. There's nowhere to put it. Whereas on email, let's say you get an Aweber account, and let's say you have a Barney with Aweber. Let's say for some, I don't know, they don't like you anymore for whatever reason, right? It's all right. You download your customer data. You go over to Infusionsoft, or you go over to ActiveCampaign, or you go over to somebody else. You upload your customer data, and you carry on with your business. So it's data you own. That's really, really important. You own the data, and also you can segment that data. The reason people unsubscribe from stuff is not because they get too much email. They unsubscribe from stuff because they get too much irrelevant email. If you're relevant to that person, if you are being helpful to that person, they are never going to unsubscribe. You can email me every single day with a cake recipe. I am never unsubscribing. If you send me one email, even one email about how I can get my abs to look wonderful, I'm out straight away because I care about cake, not abs, right? We're nodding, right? So it's about relevance. That's really important. So if we were to go, okay, I'm going to move people over to do an email. The first thing is you don't need to email every single day, right? We talk about emailing every single day. One, because it's what we do. And two, because honestly, it's a really controversial thing that grabs people by the ears and makes them go, every day, what? And it gets us attention. If we're not anything, we are attention seekers. So it's definitely, but you can email every day. And that's the point. If you wanted to, you can email as much as you want. And that might be twice a week, 3 times a week. The truth is, you will get more unsubscribes and more spam complaints if you email less often. You will also have more deliverability problems with your emails if you email less often. And the reason is you're not, well, for example, if I got an email a few weeks ago from a guy called Clive, I think he was called, and I have no idea who Clive was. Turns out I subscribed to Clive's list about 4 months ago. I've forgotten who Clive is. He's irrelevant to me. I'm off his list. I'm out of here. Whereas if you're emailing me every few days, I can't forget who you are. I can't get upset and go, how the heck am I on your email list? I can't go into that email thinking, you dirty spammer, how have you got my email address? I can't go in with the wrong attitude. Whereas if you email 2 or 3 times a week, we can maintain that relationship. So how do we get people on there in the first place? How do we get started? First thing you need to do is figure out which platform you want to use. And if you're just going to play with it, there are some really good platforms to have a play, have a go before you kind of go pro. There's some great platforms out there. And one of the reasons we exist as email marketing heroes is because we don't run and we are not employed by any of those platforms. We can be platform agnostic, as somebody once called us recently, which I thought was a very fancy way of saying we couldn't give a stuff about which platform you use. But basically, there's some platforms are great for some things and they're bad for other things. If you've got an e-commerce kind of business, some great platforms specific for e-commerce. If you're a coaching type business, or if you're a software kind of business, there are different platforms. But the big thing you've got to do is you've got to figure out, how do I move people from my festival audience over on the socials into my concert audience, who are my audience, who've come to see me on my email list? Do that by giving them an enticing reason to join your list. Like, hey, do you want to get tips from me to help you with this stuff every single day or a couple of times a week? I'll send you them for free. That's really valuable. Is it some kind of lead magnet? Is it like, here's a PDF, a report, a checklist, a cheat sheet, a framework, a way to generate 1,900 different content ideas in like 10 minutes. Is it that? Which I hear is a pretty good idea.
That sounds excellent.
It sounds
Excellent.
great.
It is.
Yeah, it's awesome. So is it one of these things? And then all you do is you point everything to it. So in the bio of your Twitter, if you're that person, you put it there. If in your bio of your Instagram, it's there. Every now and again, your Instagram story, you mention it. In your podcast, literally everywhere points to that one thing, and just serve them really well. The great thing is, as Rob said, subscriber number 1, first of all, we all had to get subscriber number 1. And we all felt a bit like, all right, great, I hope I can get subscriber number 2. We all felt like that, right? But the good thing is subscriber number 1 doesn't know the subscriber number 1. So you can email them as the subscriber number 1,000. It really doesn't matter. The other good thing is you don't need a massive list. You absolutely don't. Yes, we've got a program called Your First 5K, Your First 5,000 Subscribers. That's actually just an arbitrary number for marketing's sake, and our process does show you how to do that. But really, like Rob said, we've got people who in our membership who've got like 30 subscribers, and up of it, we've got some people who've got like 100,000 as well, of course. But that comes with its own problems. So just get your first subscriber. That was a long answer. I'm sorry.
It was long, but it was intriguing. It was very well delivered. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
A couple of questions. So I've been running this for a long time, and I'm just going to take advantage of the fact that I have you guys here right now. When someone unsubscribes, do you send them so if you've got the daily emails going, but then I have like once a week, I send out something specific that might be 5 bullet points of cool apps or something like that. And someone unsubscribes to the daily emails, do I want them to unsubscribe from everything, or can I have them unsubscribe and only stay on this one thing?
This is a great question. Rob,
it's a choice.
Talk about nuclear. Let's talk about this.
It's a choice. And basically, so by default, in most email marketing platforms, the way it'll work is they'll put the unsubscribe link at the bottom. Somebody unsubscribes, they're gone. They're not getting anything else. Mm-hmm. So the way we do it is that when somebody starts getting our daily emails, we don't do this in the getting to know you sequence. So when you're in the getting to know you sequence, it's only 4 emails. We tell you it's only 4 emails. It even has email 1 of 4, 2 of 4, 3 of 4 in the subject line. So they know they're in this bit for a limited time. If they unsubscribe during that, like they're really not interested, we just let them go. Once they get into our general emails, our day-to-day snowball emails, as we call them, we have a line of text on the bottom, and it's the least tech thing you can imagine. It's a line of text at the bottom. It's in italics, so it looks slightly different from the rest of the email. And it says, hey, if you've changed your mind about receiving our daily emails, that's totally fine. Just click here and we'll remove you from this list. It won't unsubscribe you from our email list completely, just from our day-to-day emails. And if they click here, it takes them to a page. It's a flat page on the internet that says, sorry, you've been unsubscribed. And there's something else on that page, which I'll come back to, but it's basically just a page on your website somewhere. And it tags them in your email system as being opted out of daily emails. And so literally we have like a saved search. Different platforms are going to call it different things, but like a saved search, a saved segment, whatever you want to call it, a list of people who have the daily email tag and don't have the daily email paused tag, basically, which means that it's all of you people minus the people who've opted out. And therefore they're getting daily emails. But what that means is that if we were doing, let's say, a 5-day challenge, well, we're going to run that as a very limited campaign. So we can include all the people who opted out of daily emails of that because they've chosen not to opt out of our entire list. They've just opted out of hearing from us every day forever. So if we're going to do 5 to 10 day promotion on this challenge or a webinar or a live event or whatever, we can email them about that. And in those emails, we have a different one. And it says, if you don't want to hear about this 5-day challenge anymore, just click here. We won't tell you about it anymore. And the same thing happens. It tags them as being challenge opted out, and then they don't receive those. If we're doing a live event and they're not going to have any intention of being there, then it will say, if you don't want to hear about this live event anymore, then just click here. And it's not as complicated to set up as it sounds, because basically day to day, we just have the daily email one. And then once every month, once every 6 weeks, we'll do a campaign of some description. And those emails have one specific to that campaign on it to allow people to opt out. And if at any point people really don't want to hear from you at all, they'll just go down and they'll just unsubscribe globally, nuclear unsubscribe from everything.
Okay. And so the inside of and we're going to talk about this now. I'm going to talk about what you guys actually offer, how people can work with you inside, because things like that, what you just said, and things like, customer segmenting and tagging and all that stuff, that makes me want to punch myself in the face. And I haven't done any of it. And I'm like, it's just the worst. I've been doing this for a long time, but I never have mastered it. And so I want to know, do your programs offer that, and which ones? And also, how can people work with you? What's all the ways?
Right. So we used to do done for you service, so we build people's campaigns. We don't do that anymore. We stopped doing that about a year ago. So the only ways to work with us really, the free stuff, first of all, let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
The free stuff is our podcast. It's a weekly podcast. I think you probably like podcast. I can tell that by listening to this podcast. It's called The Email Marketing Show. It's on all your favorite podcast players. Look for that. If you want to come and hang out with us and talk about applying any of the stuff we talked about, or because obviously everyone's business is different. So thinking about how to apply this stuff, we've got a free Facebook group that's called the Email Marketing Show Community. See what we did there? Please do come and hang out in that. We're in that all day, every day. We should probably get some actual work done, but we actually are in that. And of course, we've got our membership. And yes, it does include that. So in our membership, Rob, do you want to tell us about what the membership is?
Yeah, so it's called the League, the League of Email Marketing Heroes. And basically, once you're inside, the initial point is that every single month we get a brand new campaign that we've used, run, tested, worked, and just give it to you. All the emails, all the tagging, all the things, everything, the full process, so that you can take it and just deploy it in your business if it makes sense to you. And we'll tell you which ones will make sense depending on what you sell. And then we'll give you a campaign workshop where we go through that whole thing live on a call and walk through every bit of psychology, because the real thing here is we try and let the psychology work really, really hard so the tech doesn't have to work very hard. That's our big thing, because we're not actually as tech as you might think. We are very, very, very limited tech wise. So we want the psychology to work hard, let the tech be as simple as it can. And so we'll walk you through all of that stuff. Then we have a guest workshop every month. We have 2 live coaching calls every month, all of that stuff. So that we can actually help you apply it to your business. You can say, well, I sell this, and then I've got this list of 3 people. How do I get these people to buy this thing? And we'll say, here's how we would do it. So we had one of those this morning. That was lots of fun. So we do those. And then we have our Facebook group community where everyone hangs out, asks questions, gets advice from each other, shows each other what they're working on, holds each other accountable, all of that cool stuff. It's basically, think about it as your email marketing kind of taken care of, where you've got all the campaigns you can need, because you get our entire back catalog and a new one every month, plus our coaching to actually implement them as well.
The big thing as well is to do with tagging and how do I actually organize my email marketing, getting to know you sequence, then other automations. We have an area called battle plans inside of there, which are complete training programs on, we've got one about how to send an email every day, not run out of ideas. We've got one about how to organize your tags, how to do the automation. So we get all those things, how to track your sales. We have guests come in and do them. So literally all of that stuff's inside of there. If anybody wants to find out about that, if you go to emailmarketingheroes.com/league, that'll give you all the information there to see if that can help you out.
Amazing. You guys are fantastic. You make me want to kind of do this with my hair and change it to
I'm just disappointed you didn't.
Some product. Next time I'll do that. So listen, this has been absolutely fantastic. I'm going to put those links underneath this video. If you're listening to this as a podcast, you can find it somewhere, show notes probably, or in our Facebook group. We've always put the links to everything. So, is there anything you want to say before we leave? Before we end this?
No, this has just been lovely.
This has been amazing. I mean, literally, if you do one thing from this, it's just email a little bit more often than you are, and you will make more sales.
Zinger, a zinger at the end. Thanks, Kennedy.
Rob was here too.
Sorry, yeah. We won't end it there yet then. I was just should I end the call or am I going to push the button? Thanks, Kennedy and Rob. It's been absolutely fantastic.